Okay, welcome certainly everyone. It's 7 o'clock and I'd like to welcome people to our special board meeting for Sunrise School Division. My name is Paul Manning, I'm the board chair. I'm going to call our meeting to order at 7:01. We are going to have O Canada, and O Canada is going to be sung by Oakbank Elementary School. Please stand if you are able to. So thank you to Oakbank Elementary, and certainly for whoever chose that having them sing in Ukrainian. Today's certainly a pretty appropriate day for us to recognize certainly the Ukrainian programs that we have, but certainly all what's going on in the world. We have a treaty acknowledgement. I'm going to ask Trustee Peczakowski to read out our treaty acknowledgement, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We acknowledge the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides as Treaty 1 territory. We honor our partnership with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture, and language. We commit to moving forward in partnership with our communities in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation.
Thanks, Trustee Peczakowski. Before we get into the adoption of the agenda, I just want to let people know about who's all here with us. So within the room we have 5 trustees, myself, we have Trustee Duma from Oakbank, we have Trustee Berry from Beausejour, we have Trustee Harris from the Enola, we have Trustee Peczakowski from the Beausejour area. Online we have Trustee Nicol from the Whitemouth, we have Trustee Reed from Lactabani, we have Trustee Inslee from Oakbank, and we have Trustee Rowland from Dugald. Together in the room, we have Superintendent Timko, we have Secretary Treasurer Carlton, we have Assistant Superintendent Julian, and we have our Board Support and Secretary, Stacy Bonato. So that's who's all with us in our room, and as of right now, there are not any public that are here. I'll get to the adoption of the agenda, and I'll move on for some other comments. So we need to adopt the agenda, so be it resolved that the board accept the agenda as presented. We're going to have to vote verbally since no one's necessarily logged in to there. So I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Peczakowski, seconded by Trustee Berry. So I'm going to ask the people here in this room about adopting the agenda. Trustee Duma says yes. Trustee Berry says yes. Trustee Harris says yes. Trustee Peczakowski?
Yes.
I'm going to go online. Trustee Inslee?
Yes.
Trustee Nicol? Trustee Nicol? Trustee Reed?
Yes.
Trustee Nicol, is that you, Don?
Yes.
Thank you. And Trustee Rowland?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for doing that. Again, Chair's comments. So tonight we're, just so let people know, we have been accepting people coming in to present and being able to physically distance, and as well as if people want to email questions to scarlton at sunrisesd.ca to go ahead for anything, any kind of wanting to present through Teams or whatever, I think that that's set up for us to go ahead and do as well. So that we're going to have a presentation tonight with regard to the budget, and again, we'll continue to accept feedback on the budget. And just correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but we'll continue to accept feedback on the budget up until Friday at noon time, because information all goes out on Friday to all the trustees, and next Tuesday, March the 1st, is when we're looking at trying to finalize our budget. So Scott, I think that we're now to the budget presentation, and I'm going to turn the microphone over to you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, certainly we'll accept input from the public at any point up until our budget being approved. We do have another budget meeting on Thursday, so we appreciate any input before then. But so tonight, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of public in the room. Hopefully we have a number watching, and we'll still certainly make the recording of this presentation available online. We do stream all of our meetings. Also, we will take the PowerPoint presentation that I'm presenting tonight, and that will be available on our website as soon as, can we do that tomorrow, Stacey? So if you want to take a look at some of these slides, they'll definitely be available for you tomorrow on an evening where hopefully we're approaching the tail end of this pandemic, but it's also, sorry Kathy, I'm going to have to mention this, bitterly cold outside. We understand that perhaps not a lot of members of the public were able to make it out tonight, but we'll make this information available for you. Thanks to Mr. Chair for certainly introductions. We have the 5 trustees in the room, the other 4 are online with us. Our Superintendent Kathy Timko here with us, Assistant Superintendent Jackie, Executive Assistant Stacey, and myself. My name is Scott Carlton. I'm the Secretary Treasurer. I'll take you on a little bit of a walk through the budget, and I want to recognize some of the hard work that's done. We generally, as a board, start our budget process late October, early November. As soon as that, start cobbling together some of the expenditures and the resources that we need. Always trying to walk that line of the 2 obligations we have, and we recognize, number 1, providing quality education to the students in our division, and then also number 2, being accountable and responsible to taxpayers across the division. So it's a long process, and we certainly work our way through it. We're reaching the tail end of that process, and I'm going to walk you through some of the numbers tonight. Our vision statement for Sunrise, and it has been since I've been there, and we focus a lot on this. Every student will have the opportunity to experience the joy of learning in the Sunrise School Division in order to be better prepared for the future with the knowledge, skills, and values to achieve their own personal life goals. A little bit about our division. I think most of our stakeholders and ratepayers are likely familiar with a lot of this information, but we are a very large geographic division. We operate 23 schools in the Northeastman area of Manitoba. That's 13 public schools, 6 colony schools, and we have 4 adult learning centers as well. Our projected enrollment for 22-23, and this is always subject to change a little bit as we take on kindergarten registrations, and certainly there's often families moving in and out of our division, but as of right now, we're looking at about 4,700, 4,698, which is a decrease of about 16 students, or 0.3% from last year. Our focus as a division, it's been challenging the last couple of years. We're in the midst of some flux and some changes in the education environment in Manitoba, whether that's legislation that changes what we're doing, whether that's certainly environmental factors related to the pandemic and some of the stress that causes on us as the economy starts to rebound. We're seeing some cost increase on some of the resources that we utilize in order to provide education to our students across the division. So, we certainly anticipate in 22-23 those challenges to continue. We see the rate of inflation certainly challenging some of the things we're doing in terms of balancing a budget. So our core priorities, our division, is definitely a focus on maintaining manageable class sizes. I'm going to speak a little bit tonight to a proposed increase in FTE despite the fact that our student enrollment is declining slightly, we certainly focus on trying to make sure that we have solid teaching staff and manageable class sizes. That's the optimal way to provide quality education. We like to provide opportunities for our students to continue programming in French immersion, Ukrainian bilingual. Mr. Chair mentioned off the top, we had OBE singing O Canada tonight in Ukrainian. We offer those opportunities in the division. Music and the arts and technical education courses. Again, this is the line we walk while honoring a strong desire to ease the burden on taxpayers. Sunrise is focused on ensuring best possible outcomes for students by investing directly in classrooms and specialty teachers. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when we get into the numbers. Ensuring appropriate student supports in clinical staffing and mental health support, maybe more important than ever now in the environment we're in. Educational assistants who support and enhance in-class learning, and program leaders to support our teachers in curriculum development. We always focus on ensuring efficient use of the resources available to the division and developing a safe environment for our students. We focused a lot on HVAC systems, things like LED lighting on our schools to reduce energy usage. We are looking, and we'll probably focus a little more in the coming year, on exploring alternative fuel sources for transportation. With the price of fuel, that's becoming more and more important. Ensuring efficient transportation operation is key. We have route development and equipment diagnostic software to make sure our buses are running in the most optimal way possible. And the savings that we generate by doing some of those things will be redirected essentially primarily into in-class supports, but also things like GPS software, leading to applications that inform parents of bus arrival times. We've been looking at that for a little while now, and I think that's something that's on the verge of being implemented, perhaps as soon as next year, budget allowing. Hardware upgrades in tablets, laptops, and in-class interactive projectors, enhancing the learning experience, again with remote learning for some of our students in a pandemic environment, again more important than ever. And then the safety and efficiency of facilities, including security systems and mechanical systems. So going through the budget and some of our expenses as they exist, I thought the best way to do that might be looking at a typical day for one of our Sunrise students. Typical day begins for the vast majority of our students, about 80% of our 4,700 students. They begin the day by getting on a school bus, one of our 90 bus routes for the ride to school. Our buses in the division travel almost 2.8 million kilometers a year, 2.79 million. That includes our regular runs, field trips, and extracurricular activities. Student safety is a top priority, and for this reason, we also manage and operate a full-service repair facility and do the vast majority of our repairs in-house, and we rotate and retire our equipment on a regular basis. Sunrise allocates about $5.7 million. You can see 5.717. Hopefully you can see that. To transporting pupils to and from school in the division. That's up a little bit from $5.5 million in last year's budget. We're going to probably turn into a bit of a broken record here, and we'll just lay this out. As an educational organization, we've operated provincially under the specter of Bill 28, I'll say, where the vast majority of our unionized staff, and non-unionized for that matter, have not seen any significant pay increases for 4 years. And, speak bluntly, that kind of came to a head this year. It's certainly publicly available information that this division has settled with all of our union and non-unionized staff. And after a 4-year stretch of not seeing an increase, we've seen a bit of a jump in pay, and I'm probably going to recognize increasing salary costs as one of the key drivers of our budget increasing this year, and you're going to see that repeated over and over in most departments. Transportation is a challenge for us. Sunrise spends substantially more than other divisions on transporting pupils, basically due to our large geographic area. We are spread out, and we transport the vast majority of our students. Once students arrive at school, they're greeted by our staff and get ready to start the school day at one of our facilities. We manage, clean, maintain, and repair over 850,000 square feet of facilities across the division. That's schools and non-educational facilities, including our offices and transportation facilities. We also maintain parking lots, play structures, and grounds. Our maintenance department also manages all facility-related capital projects in the division, and we've had a number of those over the past few years. Upcoming on the schedule for this 2022-23 budget are a few projects. Give you some examples: a renovation of science labs at 3 of our schools, Lac du Bonnet Senior, Whitemouth, and Powerview, as well as a large exterior wall and roof replacement project at Springfield Collegiate, always ensuring that our facilities are conducive to learning and safe and cost-effective to operate. Our 5-year capital plan is prepared and submitted to the province annually, and we also have a copy of that on the division website. Costs for our maintenance department are budgeted this year. Proposed budget is $6.98 million, $6.98 million, approximately $7 million. Again, up a little bit from last year, from 6.95, so up about $38,000. Increases largely related to, again, the settlement of collective bargaining agreements and increased salaries. And we partially offset some of those increases across the board, and we'll talk a little more about this once we get to the expense summary at the end, by reducing expenses in several areas, some of it related to disposal of surplus property in the past year. Operating costs across the division for heat and insurance have also been steadily increasing, as we've seen over the last couple of years, and that places pressure on maintaining a balanced budget, to be sure. When we get to the school day, Sunrise employs approximately 375 teachers, ensuring that, again, we maintain those manageable student-to-teacher ratios in order to provide that quality education and appropriate class sizes to support student learning and achievement. The Board of Trustees ensures the classrooms are well equipped. They have committed to ensuring that all students have equitable access to the necessary materials required to be successful. We do a lot of work with our purchasing department here in Sunrise to make sure that whatever it is that we're buying, from IT equipment to pencils, we receive optimal pricing and get the best deal that we can. Technology is also another key component of the education system. Again, we found that more important than ever with the pandemic environment and some students doing remote learning or in a lot of cases needing access to teachers to do some extra learning. We strive to provide the best experience for students by maintaining current hardware inventories and embracing new technologies. Always a challenge. The speed of obsolescence in IT equipment is obviously very fast. We rotate all of our computer hardware replacements on a 5-year schedule. However, some of our classroom technology, things like projectors, and projectors are kind of antiquated technology now. We use more things like smart boards. They do not have a rotational replacement schedule. So investment in those types of equipment is required to keep our classrooms current and relevant. When we talk about our regular instruction department, this includes pretty much all classroom supports, including teaching staff. This is certainly the biggest increase across departments in costs for our current budget as compared to last year. This year we are projecting $39.3 million as compared to about $37.3 million. That's an increase of about $2 million, or about 5.5%. Increases, again, the risk of sounding like a broken record due to collective bargaining agreement settlements and the associated increase in salary costs. So in each of our union and non-union agreements over a 4-year term, increases were 1.6, 1.4, 0.5, and then this year, based on the cost of living average for Canada, which was 3.3%. So as you can imagine, over the 4 years, that adds up to a pretty significant increase in costs. Ensuring that the majority of the resources in our budget are allocated directly to the classroom is a huge priority for the division. We've also added some additional teaching resources in this year's budget in an effort to maintain optimal classroom sizes. Our regular instruction expenditures also include the ICT resources directed to classrooms and teaching staff, which has been a focus for us in Sunrise. Supporting our students, all students in the division have contact with student services personnel. Our student services personnel include guidance counselors, resource teachers, psychologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, social workers, mental health workers, and educational assistants who work alongside our classroom teachers and families to support learning and achievement. In our student support services department, we're seeing an increase this year as compared to last year, about $444,000, going from $13.6 million to just a shade over $14 million. Again, largely due to the increase in salary costs. We have an administration department. There's our smiling faces, myself and Kathy and Jackie. To support and direct frontline staff, Sunrise Administration leads the work in schools, curriculum implementation, student services, and then of course some of the necessaries, human resources, finance, and our technology departments. In Manitoba, our administrative costs have been subject to, I call it a fluctuating cap. It's a fixed percentage of budget, so it fluctuates a little bit as our budget fluctuates, and that has been directed by the province. So we've been, for several years now, running a quite lean and efficient and accountable administration department. Included in our administration costs, which I'm going to get to on the next slide, are costs for our trustees, senior administration, finance, human resources, technology, and their associated staffing and supplies. So this year, again, we continue to hold the line with the cap on administrative costs and make sure that we comply with the provincial directives. We are looking at a modest increase in administrative costs this year, going from 2.099, almost 2.1 million, to 2.166. Again, a result of salary obligations for our union and non-union staffing. I do want to mention again that across the board, in every department, everything we buy runs through our purchasing department that again issues, in a lot of cases, requests for proposals, enters into contracts with vendors who can provide the best quality product at the best possible price. So we do go the extra mile to make sure that we are getting the best possible price to make the most efficient use of our resources. Sunrise values divisional support to strengthen instructional strategies used to improve student learning and success primarily in literacy, numeracy, active learning, languages, and music. We have program leaders that work for us divisionally, that work with teachers on high-quality responsive teaching and the use of relevant data to inform their practice towards success on student learning outcomes. That is the biggest part of our instructional support department, but we also have expenditures in this department related to library staff, teaching materials, and certainly professional development opportunities, which we value. We want our staff to be up to speed on the latest techniques for sure when it comes to teaching. Our instructional support department this year is looking again at a modest increase of $10,000, coming from 1.52 million up to 1.53. Again, the bulk of that related to increases in salary costs. We do have two other departments that I want to touch on for a second. Certainly in our budget we have adult learning centers and we have some community education and services. I don't want to ignore these departments. We have costs related to doing some of these things. Both of these areas of our expenses across the division are funded by what we call categorical grants, grants that come specifically from the province to fund these activities. In fact, we go through a separate process for our adult learning centers budget and submit that budget to the province, and that is funded specifically on our proposal as it's submitted. So I don't want to say these things are not included in our budget, but they are offset by specific grants that compensate us for those specific expenditures. So that's the departments and the increase in expenses. I have to say we were quite pleased this year when the funding announcement came out from the province. They did announce a fairly substantial increase to Sunrise in provincial funding. I've included a section of it here that shows a $426,000 increase. We also received from the province a one-time increase in our funding of almost $2.1 million, $2.095 million. And that money was directed to all school divisions across Manitoba, really to compensate for the settlement of union agreements with all our staff. The province recognized that it was something that we needed to do, and in fact, I believe all 38 divisions in Manitoba have settled with teaching staff. Some are still working on non-teaching staff, but they will get there with all union agreements. So this is not unique to Sunrise. Salaries have increased across the board in the province, and we need to do that in order to stay competitive. So the province has recognized that and increased our funding this year. Hopefully that's not too small to see. Again, we'll definitely be putting these materials up on the website. So when we talk about increases in cost, again, largely payroll costs, but also there are some inflationary pressures on our budget on inputs like fuel and insurance, and that creates some challenges in balancing our budget on an annual basis. Sunrise is proposing this year a budget increase of about $2.7 million, about 3%, the vast majority relating to salary costs. Increases in that budget were offset by two key areas, really. I spoke about some increased provincial funding directed to divisions, and again, it's all divisions across Manitoba, specifically in recognition of the rising cost of labor resulting from union settlements and collective agreement settlements. I also do want to focus on the fact that through our process of developing a budget, we have created some cost reductions and created some efficiencies and found some places where we could reduce costs. We found about $435,000 worth of cost reductions, largely in, again, non-classroom resources. So we look at things like finance and administrative costs, maintenance and operating costs, and a little bit of professional development cuts as well. I've got a graph in the upcoming slide, but I do want to mention that if we look at our budget as a whole and exclude the cost from increased salaries and the additional 3.5 teaching supports that I mentioned that we're putting into the system, our operating budget for this year is actually decreasing by about $62,000, so a very modest decrease in our operating expenditures. Here's a graph I referenced, and I keep coming back to this, so at the risk of beating a dead horse, you'll see the increase in our budget. 87% of that increase relates directly to the increased cost of salaries. Again, I recognize this graph looks a little bit small on the screen and on the PowerPoint, but definitely if you have any questions or would like to see this in a bit larger size, just reach out to me and I'm happy to do so. If we were to, again, take out the increase in salary costs as well as the increase in staffing, the teachers I had mentioned, again, you'll see the green line there is a reduction in our overall operating expenditures net of salaries. A little bit about what that means to the taxpayer at the end of the day. I'm very happy to say that this will be the 4th year in a row that Sunrise is reducing our mill rate. The province has provided directives to school divisions across Manitoba to freeze municipal taxes, which is what we've done. As our property values increase, that results in reductions in the mill rate as we go year to year. So to get a little more specific, we do a bit of a graph here, estimating what the education property tax would be on a house of different values. You can see here that over the course of the last 4 years, on a house worth about $150,000, we've actually reduced education property taxes a modest amount, $36, but that does make about almost 20%, 19.5% of your net education property tax bill after a $750 rebate from the province. Because that $750 is fixed, you'll see the percentage decrease as your property value gets a little bit higher. But even in and around a $250,000 property, we're looking at a reduction over 4 years of about $60, or about 7.5% of your property taxes. And we continue to focus on ensuring that we're reducing those property taxes year over year in the division. So that is what I have for presentation. Again, I'll reiterate what Chair Magnon said. Certainly if you have any questions, any feedback, and I'll check my email in a second if there's any, feel free to forward that to my email or budget@sunrisesd.ca. My email again, scarleton, and my last name is spelled a little bit differently than the street, SCARLETON @sunrisesd.ca. Or as always, you can try and reach me in the office. My direct line is 204-268-6514.
Thanks, Scott. So now certainly we would hear from anyone from the public. There is nobody here in front of us. Is there anyone that has sent anything in to us, Scott, online? And we'll take a minute here. So thanks, Scott, for going ahead and doing this. Again, we have not received anybody in person, nor have we received anybody online, but I am going to give a comment for trustees if they want to make a comment. Just go around the room because we've presented and there's really nothing else here. So I will open it up and go around the room if anybody wants to go ahead and say anything. And I will give the people on the phone a chance to go ahead and do that. Trustee Duma, any comment or that you would like to make? So Trustee Duma says no. Trustee Barry, any comment? No. Trustee Harris, any comment? No. Trustee Pachakowski, any comment? No. Trustee Rowan, on the line, any comment?
No, that was a nice presentation. Thank you very much, Scott. And I just wanted to commend our board for the 4 years in a row helping our taxpayers out and holding the line there. I'm proud of our work. Thank you.
Thanks, Trustee Rowan. Trustee Ainsley?
I have no comments. Thanks.
Trustee Reed?
I just wanted to thank Scott for a very good presentation, and I guess that's it.
Thanks. Trustee Nicol?
No.
Can't hear you. Don, I can't hear you very well.
Can you hear me now?
Got you now. Thanks, Don.
Okay, thanks.
No. You checked out on me again, Don. Sorry.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
I can.
Okay. I'm using my iPhone for the first time. Sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Sounds like you're watching at the same time as you're trying to talk, so you got to turn one of them off.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. 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 Okay. Can you hear me now?
Do you have any comment, Don? Okay, well, I think, Don, that you don't have any comment, and if it is, you can interrupt me. So for the public, that information is going to be up online. Is this as soon as possible, or is it going to be online tomorrow morning?
All right, I'll talk now.
Don, I didn't hear you, sorry.
You still can?
No, you're cutting in and out.
Okay, I got no comment, so.
Okay, I got that. So we're going to get this this budget presentation up online as soon as possible. Hopefully it'll be either later tonight or it'll be first thing tomorrow morning. And again, if you do have any questions, of course, it's to scarlton@sunrisesd.ca. And again, if you have any comments, you're more than welcome to address any of the trustees or all of the trustees by sending it to our email addresses, and you have that information on the website. So I would encourage people to go ahead and do that. We don't have anything else to present for you tonight. So I will call an adjournment because I don't think that we have anything else, and there's no other trustees that are here. I'm looking around the room, so we've got 5 heads that are nodding, and the 4 of you online. We don't have anything else to present, so since we don't have any presenters or any questions, we're going to call it an evening, and thanks Scott and Jackie and Kathy for putting this together for us. We still have some work to do. We meet on Thursday night, and then the object is for us to try to pass a budget on Tuesday, March the 1st at our public meeting, and see where we get to. So I'm going to call this an adjournment. Thanks very much for everybody here. Drive safe. It's 22, and get home while it's not 45 below. Good night, guys online.
Okay, good night. Good night.
Good night. Good night, thank you. Carolyn. Left. Diane Rowland.